because coherence is not something you arrive at one day. It is a decision that you consistently have to make. Hello. I know what it feels like to lose yourself while building a life that you think you're supposed to live. And the scary thing about that is that it rarely happens overnight. It is always a consequence of consistent compromises and decisions that are not in alignment with who you truly are, because we don't check in enough with what it is that we really want. And before we know, we are living a life, or we are in a situation that looks good on paper but feels completely disconnected from who you are. And recently, by asking myself a couple of questions, I discovered that I almost fell for the same trap as a couple of years ago when I built and scaled my business, to then have to walk away from it because it wasn't aligned with who I really am. It's so easy to slowly drift away from what you know to be true while convincing ourselves that we are moving forward. Lately, I've realized that I was doing the same thing. I was convinced that I had learned the lesson. Life has a way of asking if you have only understood the lesson intellectually or whether you have fully embodied it. There's this trap that I've recognized in a lot of people, clients, but also in myself, where we are very good at front running our vision, front running our intellect, while forgetting to be fully alive in it. So, to give you a little context, and I'm sure that you can get some value from just listening to my story in any kind of way. But if you didn't know already, I have a coaching business. I don't even want to call it coaching because it's more like a recalibration process that is based on my own methodology when it comes to identity recalibration. And to simplify it, which is interesting as that is the whole thing that I will get back to later, but to simplify it, it is to support your mission, your vision, your authentic being in a way that is congruent with who you are on a soul level. And to even further simplify that, it is to create your version of wealth. My version of wealth is having time freedom, financial freedom, location freedom, freedom of choice, and a situation where your outer world is a reflection of your inner truth. So that's what I help people with. And it has been an enormous blessing to do this work. It is mind-blowing. It is where my heart is in. It is where my soul is in. That being said, I'm not a coach. I would say I'm a translator and a decoder. All those labels. It's to make sure that others can grasp what you are. Like, I am not about the labels at all, but yeah, we have to somewhere we have to come to a place where you can understand. Oh man, this is so interesting. Anyways, I'm not a coach. I'm not a coach. And I've been building my life, learning from people, obviously, oh, I don't want to take this in all kind of directions, but I've been building my life around focusing on how coaches would normally structure their life and their business, etc. And I've learned from people because I am wise enough to know, like, I have a very strong vision, but I'm wise enough to know that I don't know everything. I'm always open to learn. I've invested in myself heavily. I know the importance of that. And I also realized that throughout my life, it has always been so that I have to find my own path. And obviously that's the case for most people. But other than that, like it continuously happened to be so that if I follow other people's advice, that I tend to end up worse. And I don't see that as a reason to not learn from others, right? I see that as a reason to practice more discernment and to descend even deeper into the truth of who I am and keep asking myself, where do I follow other people's strategy instead of my own? Investing in yourself and learning from others is pure wisdom. But doing that without discernment is self abandonment. And that is the balance that I've been looking for. It's about staying radically open to learning while staying radically honest with yourself and who you truly are. And my broader vision is and has always been around me being an architect, right? A steward, so to say. Meaning that if I create things, they will remain even when I step backwards. Because how many people of us, or how many of us, create lives where they basically set up this golden cage for themselves, and when they step back, everything collapses. That's not what real freedom is to me. And I've realized myself that even deeper, because I always come back to the same truth. And the main thing that I became extremely clear about is that I don't want my broader mission that is attached to my soul and my heart, what I want to birth, or what I already have birthed into the world from such a loving and honest place, for that to be responsible for my survival or to feed me, so to say. Because I have experienced that the more pressure you put on your deepest work to feed you, to support you, the more vulnerable you become, the easier it becomes to negotiate with your own truth. What do I mean by that? That everything that you do starts to become this heavy thing, where every client or whatever it is, even if you have a passion for music or art, when you put the pressure and the weight on that thing that is attached to your deepest work, to your soul and your heart, it becomes tainted. There's no way around it. If you make that thing responsible for your survival, it takes the whole energy and the whole soul out of it. To me, that has nothing to do with freedom. It's survival wearing the mask of purpose. And I've been on a journey where I came back to social media after completely disappearing for 5 years. And it seemed like the most logical thing to show up online and to make people aware of what I have to offer. And I've opened myself up to learn from people that obviously, do great in their own way. But it's not me. It's not me. To give you a little bit more context, and you might recognize some things within my story. But, ow! My leg is sleeping. Oh. What I do is deep identity work. It's not something that you spew around or you throw around like confetti or you shove down people's throats. They have to be ready for it. They have to recognize themselves in it. For me, obviously, when you have a service, when you have something to offer to the world, you have to let people know that you have that thing to offer, right? And there are many, many different ways to do that. But nevertheless, to stay with the story, it's deep identity work and it needs resonance. People always come to me and tell me that they want to work with me. If I structure it in any other ways, and obviously, like I said, you have to make yourself known, right? That is also a reason why I showed up online, because I'm smart enough to know that if people don't know that you exist, it becomes very difficult to find their way to you. But the way I have been doing it and the ways and the strategies that I've been following do not work for me. It does not work for me. It's not something that I have to convince people of that they need that. They have to recognize themselves in it, and then they come to me. That is also the way that you get the biggest transformations, right? Because people are invested, they make the decision. It's not light work, but it is definitely the right work, okay? It is, like I said, transformational. And I've been showing up in a way that seemed logical. I've been listening to people that obviously know in their own way what they are talking about, but it goes against my nature. I'm not a content creator. The creation of content is just a vehicle for expression. It's just one of many things in how I can express myself and give form to things that only exist within my system. There's a lot going on here, right? I will come back to that later, but I'm not a content creator, and sometimes it's very good for yourself to define what you are and what you are not, right? So you can find another way, because there are many ways, and sometimes we cannot see them anymore because we are so focused on what works for others, right? And again, we have to stay open to the wisdom and experience of others. But in the end, you have to find your own unique way. With that being said, if I have to think about what I have to say, like if I have to keep up with creating content, soon enough, I start to overthink things, because you have to post, you have to feed the algorithm, you have to show up consistently. Consistency is indeed extremely important, but make sure that you are consistent in what's right for you. Now, with the whole content creation stuff, when you commit yourself to posting daily, let's say, because that's what they advise you. Some people even say post 30 times a day. Man, where did you get the time for that? Down. And some people think that is the only way. Like, we can go in the depths of why all those things can work. For certain people, they can work because they have to rely on consistently being visible so people don't forget them. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole other game. I just know it's not my game. No, please, no. Nevertheless, when I have to think about content and people teach you things like, okay, you use AI to leverage, and I agree, I have nothing against AI. For me, every time, and I tried it a couple of times, you can go all the way back on my Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I've tried it a couple of times, and then they teach you how you can do it. No, it's in your own voice and you can train it. It's never your own voice. apart from that, even when I, write things down that I want to discuss and share, it's already interesting to me, because if I pre-think about it and then later I have to record it, it already feels a little bit distant from me. Again, I don't want to go into the depths of all those things at this moment, but the point being is that it already feels a little bit distant, right? Well, it's 100% me. But when I use AI to create my scripts, even if it's in my voice and I've trained it on my knowledge and all that stuff, it isn't me. And that is a way to keep up with the enormous amount of pushing out content, but it's not my way. So that's why I've made a couple of decisions that suit me better in who I am, because I don't want to get to a point where I'm creating a life again, or a golden cage, where I'm still a slave to something. Well, I convince myself that I live in freedom. I'm not doing it at all. And it's interesting because you really have to take moments for yourself. Fuck. There we go. Unscripted. What I wanted to say, you really have to take moments for yourself where you ask yourself the right questions, right? Because the quality of your answers are directly dependent on the quality of the questions that you ask yourself. And sometimes you simply have to ask yourself, am I optimizing work? Am I leveraging my time, for example? Or am I optimizing misalignment? Because there's a very, very fine line between those those things. Where do we slowly become something or someone that everyone else likes? Well, we don't even like ourselves. That's why I show up exactly as I am. And it can be very confusing for people. I'm aware of that. All I care about is the truth. And sometimes I don't feel optimal. Sometimes I don't like how shit is going down here. I don't. Sometimes I struggle with staying positive. But I have tools and ways to always get back to myself. There's a big difference between integrated awareness and gaslighting yourself with intellect. And to let you in on something, little secret, I feel highly responsible to show up real, highly responsible. To be honest, I just want to die in peace. And that means that I have to be extremely honest with myself in every now moment. But don't mistake my vulnerability for weakness. I'm willing to be projected on and judged in a world that has consistently disappointed me, while being honest with myself about where I keep disappointing myself. Because I deeply believe that I have to participate in the change I want to see. Period. But I have zero tolerance for bullshit, for disrespect whatsoever. Ja, dan zeg ik fuck you. What else? Sometimes you have to say fuck you to someone else to prevent saying fuck you to yourself. With that being said, I talk a lot about misalignment, alignment, coherence. And I'm highly aware of the fact that I have to keep asking myself that same question. Am I still a living embodiment of my own message? That is the question I want to keep asking myself for the rest of my life. Because coherence is not something you arrive at one day. It is a decision that you consistently have to make. And you can only do that if you live with integrated inner truth and awareness. I realized that it is easier to hide behind intellect when you don't trust the world with your heart. Sometimes intelligence becomes an armor where we become so good at explaining life that we forget how to live it. The biggest trap is where we keep telling ourselves that we already know what to do. So if we already know it, we might as well do it tomorrow. Now tomorrow becomes a psychological permission slip to not do it in the now. It's a very dangerous place to be, if you ask me. A perspective shift that I've made recently, well, getting back to center, is what if we start replacing tomorrow for the next decision? So no tomorrow, only the next decision. Meaning that the next decision that we make has to be in full alignment with what we know to be true. The next decision. So I went through a process lately, which already sort of, came through this whole conversation. But to not digress into the depths of all the details and stuff like that, the answer was simplification. And that answer has been there since a couple of years. I had this urge to simplify things in my life, drastically simplify. So that's what I've done. That's what I've been doing. That's what I'm still doing. To me, simplicity has nothing to do with thinking less deeply. It has to do with removing everything that is standing in the way between you and what you already know to be true. And what you already know to do. What you already know that needs to be done. I saw this quote online, "Fuck your mood, follow the plan." And I was like, no. It is fuck your mood, follow the vision. Because plans can change as long as they are fully supporting your mission. That's where we make the distinction between actual misalignment and a temporary mood swing. Sometimes we mix them up, and that's where we get lost. And to have a clear vision is a result of extreme clarity. So who you are, where you want to go, and which vehicle is best for you to get there. It's a very personal thing. Needs our focus and attention to be birthed into your reality. Even if it's just starting with planting the seed of clarity, that is already where everything can change. So to give you a little insight of what I've been doing as a result of simplifying my life drastically, and I will get into that more in future videos. I'm also building a second business besides my recalibration. I can't be serious this. And it sounds like, oh, whoa, another business. No, I've been very conscious around how to structure this and why I do what I do. And to let you in a little, this business fully supports my broader mission. Good thing is that it complements everything and it doesn't have a scalability cap, which puts me back in a position of complete freedom. Time freedom, financial freedom, location freedom, freedom of choice, and my outer world being a direct reflection of my inner truth, while building something that protects that, what matters most. One business creates leverage and the other one carries my life's work. They're not competing with each other, they are serving each other fully. And that is a very important distinction. Everything I do and everything I share, I walk myself fully. And sometimes it gets messy. It's challenging, it's descending deeper and deeper into the truth of who you are, while also being able to open yourself up to more joy and more ease and more fun in life. Because suffering is inherently connected to life, but it doesn't mean that we have to accept that as something that has the biggest say in our lives. And we can change that and alchemize that with holding another perspective, choosing to hold another perspective. That is why I know that it's so important for me to be honest and to show up honest. I don't want to hide the messy parts, because the biggest mistake we often make is to not allow ourselves to go through those phases while being seen. It's not about victimhood. It's about shining a light on the dark. That's what honesty is. Honesty is medicine. Be honest about who you are, and where you want to go. It starts with self. It starts with self and it ends with self. And to get a little back into simplification and what that means to me, other than all kinds of practical things, which I will maybe share a little bit more about in the future. Same as, keeping you up to date around the business that I'm creating, how it's doing, but more than that, how I'm creating a life that is a complete reflection of my inner truth. Because there's so much more to it than just thinking about it. It has to do with deep layers of identity, decision making, but also having the right tools, knowledge, systems. I will share more about that soon. But what I do know is that it's challenging to be honest without clarity, real clarity. Because all the things that you see around you and the more you consume gives you this false narrative of gaining more clarity. Well, in the end, it's just bringing more confusion. It comes down to personalized advice based on who you are, what you want, how you are wired. With that being said, I've created an alignment diagnostic that gives you clarity around the hidden patterns that may be standing in the way of what you are capable of, standing in the way of your unrealized genius, how I like to call that, to help you identify the hidden patterns that pull you away from yourself while pouring into a life that doesn't feel like you anymore. Or maybe everything is okay, but you just feel that there's more to life than that you are currently living. If you want to access that, you can go to the link in my description. All the way on top, just click on it. It will take you through a couple of questions and it should give you some clarity. Oh, get the stretch out. Anything to add to that? Yeah, no matter what, it is extremely important to define what success, quality of life really means to you before it defines you. My definition of success is, apart from what I already said, time, location, financial freedom, freedom of choice, a life that fully reflects my inner truth. It's becoming more of me while creating more positive impact It is creating a life that is congruent with my philosophy, my deeper truth and fulfillment. And I will be radically honest along the way. Money is a measurement, coherence is a measurement, relationships are a measurement, freedom is a measurement, health is a measurement, relationships is another measurement. But what I do know is that when the money accumulates, well, the rest of those things are staying behind. You haven't really won. The world doesn't need more people that understand transformation. The world needs more people that build transformative things. The real goal always has been freedom, whatever that means to you. I know what it means to me. We need money. We definitely need money, especially back in the hands of people that move from the heart space. But in the end, money just puts fuel to the fire. The quality of your life will never exceed the accuracy in which you can see yourself. So my question to you, the good old questions, is what part in your life you are currently calling progress? Well, it's actually pulling you away from yourself, your inner truth, your inner fire, your real desire. We can really have it all as long as we are honoring our inner space while carrying ourselves through life with the utmost grace. That's it for now. See you next time. Ciao.